wish I could, but I really shouldn't.
Maura, you missed Brownie Day! What? What? Can I look at you? Matt.
Matt.
Well, I can't find Shelly. There she is.
Really annoying.
Look how zoomed in it is.
Oh, might as well get this. Yeah, she's not shy.
Yeah, why you guys gotta be camera shy?
I love camera shots.
All right,
Okay,
all
your
right.
camera loves me.
Let's get this done so maybe we can go back out.
So delicious.
Mara,
You're missing
we're
out.
paying attention to swimming
You're so
and
delicious.
diving.
So weird, man.
Except diving.
I'm talking to Mora.
Talking to brownies.
No, I'm talking to Mora.
Oh.
Hi,
Okay.
Mora.
Matt's talking on the brownie.
All right, I am beginning. I want to get this done. All right, the first thing that
Brownies are
we'll
so
talk
good.
about, and it's a little bit out of order, is we talked about the Harlow's monkeys and how they were attached, and they seemed to attach more for comfort than for food, and that was essential. That's essential. Now, we're going to take a look at continuing with the idea of attachment. You need to know, since I already had this up on the board, you need to know, and this information is a little bit different from the textbook. This is Barron's, and it's the way I like this information to be presented. You need to know the woman Mary Ainsworth. She was the pioneer researcher in attachment in young children. And we need to understand that attachment and how well and securely you're attached as young children will affect you throughout your life, in all your relationships. It will impact whether you'll be able to form healthy, mature, loving marital relationships, etc. Okay, so she set up a situation. It was called the strange room situation. Actually, I left out the word room. The strange room situation, and every time, I guess she probably used the same age range of children because that would be appropriate. She had mamas and their little ones come in, let's say a 2-year-old or 2.5-year-old, and she saw how they interacted first in this room. They had lots of toys and cool things to do. Now, when children who are securely attached form the majority, which is nice. It's nice to think that. So when the mom is in the room with the child, baby is going to feel like mama is a secure base that they can roam from in different directions and still know that they can come back to her and feel good. So the children who were securely attached kind of left mama and went to explore the environment. And that's good. Okay. And then what happens next is they call the mother out of the room. She leaves. So the child is left with some other adult in the experiment in the room. And what happens in a securely attached relationship, the child without the mama is distressed when mama leaves. Okay? The kid is sad, unhappy. And then when mother returns, the child is happy and runs over to mommy and everything is like you hope it would be. Okay? That's a securely attached child. Hi. We're moving along. Maybe we can go back out and see some more.
We got let out of physics, like, because we were in lower school.
Oh. And the brownies. Okay. Avoidant attachment is a good chunk of
Gabby's
kids
here.
at 21%. Think about the term and what it is. When they're with the mom in the room, they resist being held by the mother. Not like resist, like, let me down, I want to go play with the toys. but let me down because I really don't want you to be holding me. So they resist being held by the mother, and then they get down and they do explore the environment. Okay, so that's good. Then the mother returns, and they explore the, okay. And then when mom returns, the child doesn't go to her for comfort. Imagine that. Mother comes back into the room and the kid wants nothing to do with her. That's avoidant attachment. So that's a really negative sort of style. And then the third one is called anxious or ambivalent. And the textbook says both of these are kinds of insecure attachments. Obviously, they're not securely attached. The anxious ambivalent kind is only 12%, fortunately. First of all, they have an ambivalent relationship with the parent. It's kind of like, sometimes I want to be near you, and sometimes I don't trust you. And it all comes down to trust, every bit of it. And that trust thing has a lot to do with early bonding, okay? When mom leaves, they show extreme stress. So that's where the word ambivalent comes from. They don't want much to do with mom when she's in the room, and yet when she leaves, it's like they start screeching and you know, are very unhappy. And then when mom returns, they will be comforted, but they resist it. It's a push-pull. They go toward, they can't pull away, so that's the ambivalence. Does that make sense?
Are there any examples of this that we could watch?
Say that
Are
again?
there, does anyone have any examples of these types of children? Like videos or something?
Yeah, and actually I was looking for these earlier because there's a kind of a famous video of this exact experiment, and I couldn't find it. It used to be online, and I was not able to locate it. Okay, so as soon as we get this, we'll erase the board and go kind of back, because I was, because this was on the board, I wanted to just do that first.
You can go, I can just catch up later.
Okay. All right, and remember, these kinds of attachment styles mean a lot in terms of future relationships. The question was raised in the last class by Marissa. She asked, is this sort of relationship and what happens up here, is this a function of the child's temperament and the way he comes into the world? Or is this more related to how the parent deals with the kid from the child's birth? And it's a little bit of an interplay. Certainly if a child has a tough, difficult temperament, their parents are not gonna easily they're gonna certainly take care of the child, but there's always gonna be a kind of a, oh, I gotta go do this again, and this kid is so difficult that, I mean, there's a certain amount of that must play through the mind of a parent of a difficult child. I know, I actually had a child with a difficult temperament, and it was at times a struggle to approach her. As much as I knew that I needed to, and I did it, but it actually ended up very badly for a few years.
How is she now?
We're fine, except
No, her, like, cause your temperament stays with you.
her temperament has not changed. She is still difficult. Yeah, she wants us now to move to Atlanta now because she's about to have a second baby in March, and she wants us now. So this kind of like, so that kind of push-pull relationship, enmeshment is the word, it's very difficult with a difficult child. Okay, so here's what Mary Ainsworth would have said to me. She would have said that, okay, if you have a difficult, slow to warm up or difficult child, you need to actually be trained in sensitive responding for temperamentally difficult children. And if you do that, and she showed this in her own experiments, it actually doubled the rates of secure attachment. Now, interestingly enough, my daughter is securely attached to me. So somehow or other, things must have gone okay. But I was not the only caretaker. It also mattered that my husband was hugely involved, and the grandparents, etc. And this is where they talk about fathers. Fathers count. We always think about the mother. We always think of little boys and their dads, and how little boys emulate their fathers, and how important fathers are for boys. But they have done studies with girls and have shown that girls who have a strong father figure in their life tend to be more self-confident, more high achieving, and have higher self-esteem. So those are things that healthy fathering bestows on daughters. It does not mean that if a girl doesn't have a good relationship with a father, that she can't be a happy, healthy human being. Okay. And just know also that if you did have to go to a daycare, I'm not talking about a preschool, but daycare doesn't, and this was a throwback to about 40 years ago when they thought that daycare, you put your child in daycare, you were a neglectful parent who was harming your child beyond repair. And what they found is that in daycare, children have an advantage. They learn social skills that they wouldn't learn otherwise, obviously. Their language advances. Those are good things. And on the other side, they learn aggression, which makes sense, because when you have another little 2-year-old biting you, you have to learn something, and that happens. Believe me, that does happen. Okay, now we need to take a look at just only 1 or 2 more things at the most. Okay, these are the things that happen if you do not attach, and that has happened in many situations, like in countries where they've had too many kids in orphanages because of country having upheaval. Yeah.
If you're like a good parent and like you like love and nurture your child, is it possible for them to have like an avoidant attachment to you and stuff like that? For it just not to be like responsive to you?
It's fairly unlikely. You know, you can have that temperamentally difficult child, but if you're secure, if you're well attached to that child and you know how to respond to that difficult child, they're probably going to be non-avoidant, probably going to be okay. Although I can't say that it's 100% of cases. Okay, so do know that if you've got prolonged deprivation of caring, parenting, or severe deprivation, like those children in the Romanian orphanages who were then adopted out at the age of 3 or 4 to American families, and the families wanted them so much, beautiful children, and they tried everything they could do to help create a family bond, but the kid would not attach. It was kind of like, I don't want to say a critical period, but in a way it was like a window of opportunity had in fact passed if they never had attached to anybody in the orphanage. So these severely neglected or abused children have had difficulty in forming attachments, and they have increased anxiety and depression, lower intelligence, and more aggression. So those are bad things.
Do you think that children with like younger siblings, do you think the older children could maybe not be as securely attached to like one parent if the other parent is focusing on the younger child?
Yeah, that definitely happens. Because there are children who come into the world younger who have specific needs that completely occupy the parents, and the older child just misses out, and the things that are supposed to happen don't. Let's talk about self-concept. And self-concept is something that develops, and I'm not writing notes, but self-concept is something that develops around the ages of 15 to 18 months. Now, what is a self-concept? It's the idea that you are separate and unique from that mother. Before that time, the child sees himself as simply, or sees his mother or parent as simply as an extension of himself. Like we're really one big organism. And you know that they have used that test to see if a child has gotten to the point of understanding, oh, I'm a separate, unique being.
Is it the red dot test? Is it the red dot test?
Yeah, the red dot test, the lipstick test, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so you put a marker or lipstick or something on a baby's nose. Before the age of, and there's a little bit of time there, 15 to 18 months. Before the age of, let's say, 15 months, when he looks in the mirror and sees this baby with the red on his nose, he reaches out to touch the other baby. Okay, so he doesn't realize that's him, obviously. And then he gets to that magical, and this is all cognitive development, he gets to that magical age, and suddenly when at 16 months old or whenever, he is presented with the same situation, and he sees that baby in the mirror, he now touches his own nose, not reaching out. And it's to me it's such an elegant little test that they devised that was, it's so simple, but yet it shows dramatically.
I've seen it on like YouTube before, and a lot of the times like the child like starts crying or gets scared because like the first time like they like realize that it's on their face and stuff like that because they don't know what's going on. They're like,
Right.
wait, that's me.
Because they realize it's them.
Did you ever test these things on your own children?
I
going
never
to.
did at that time because I wasn't teaching psych at the time, and so I didn't know the specific things that,
Yeah.
yeah. But I will be with my grandchildren,
Maybe
using
that-
them as
that
little
weird-
subjects.
That weird grandma that always
Oh, grandma.
always do those weird tests.
That weird grandma.
Yeah, grandma, we just want the brownies. And you're just like making them walk, like crawl in a maze or something.
I keep looking at my notes thinking there's something I've left out, but I don't think there is. Oh yeah, here it is. No, we haven't done this. Okay, this is it, and this is the last thing. Parenting styles. How does your parent deal with you? From little kid all the way to adulthood. 3 styles. Authoritarian and authoritative, they're very similar words, so keep them differentiated. Authoritarian is basically a dictatorship. It's the parent who sets rules and doesn't ask for input from the child and really probably doesn't care. It's my way or the highway sort of thing. And then the permissive parent is what it sounds like. They're allowing their kids to run the show. And there's no either boundaries or consequences. But then one more thing has to be added to that. Occasionally, there are consequences. All of a sudden, the parent will say, "Oh, you came home 20 minutes late? All right, give me your car keys for a month." It's like, well, where'd that come from? You never did that before. It's very confusing to the child. And all of this also impacts how the child ends up developing. Those kids end up acting out and getting in trouble with the law,
The
etc.
The first two?
The permissive. And the authoritative is the kind of parenting that probably you have, or I hope you have. And that is the kind of parent who lets you help determine where you're gonna go on vacation or what we're gonna do today for fun. We're gonna go to the park, or we're gonna go to the beach. There are clear boundaries, but there is a democracy. So authoritarian is more like a dictatorship. Authoritative is more like a democracy. And that's it. All of these have consequences for child's future development. And we're done. We want to go back.